The cold that night wasn't the kind that only bit at the skin. It sank deeper, into bones, into memories, into the quiet places where loneliness waits. Christmas lights flickered along empty streets, cheerful and cruel at the same time, as if mocking anyone who had nowhere to go. Snow gathered on sidewalks untouched by footsteps, and the world felt paused, holding its breath. That was the night he saw them. A woman standing still under a broken street, two small children pressed against her sides, their breath fogging the air as they clutched torn jackets and a single plastic bag that held everything they had left. And before he even realized he was moving, the ex-Navy SEAL heard his own voice cut through the silence. Calm, steady, certain. Come with me. For years, people had trusted that voice without question. It had led men through gunfire, through smoke, through chaos so loud it rattled the soul. But those years were over now, at least on paper. The uniform was gone, the medals locked in a drawer he never opened, and the war followed him home in quiet ways, in restless nights, in reflexes that never softened, in a heart that learned to stay guarded. He told himself he liked the solitude, told himself it was safer. But on Christmas night, when the city felt emptier than ever, that lie cracked. Her name was Sarah, though she didn't offer it right away. Her eyes were sharp with fear, the kind that comes from learning not to trust promises. One child, a boy of about 7, stood stiff like a shield, chin raised too high for someone so small. The other, a little girl maybe 4, clutched a threadbare teddy bear with one missing eye, her face buried in her mother's coat. Sarah had lost her husband 9 months earlier, a heart attack at work. Sudden and merciless. Grief had come first, then medical bills, then eviction notices, and finally, this night, when the shelter was full and every phone call ended with apologies. Christmas had arrived anyway, indifferent to her collapse. The man's name was Jack. He didn't say I'm sorry or ask questions that would reopen wounds. He simply took off his heavy coat and draped it around the little girl's shoulders, then turned and walked a few steps away, giving Sarah space to decide. Years in special operations had taught him something most people never learned. Rescue only works when the person chooses to move. After a long moment, she followed. Jack's apartment was modest, almost bare. No decorations, no tree, no sign that the season meant anything to him. The walls held no photos. The silence inside was thick, but it was warm. He set them up on the couch, made hot chocolate from an old recipe he remembered from childhood, and found extra blankets he'd never used. The kids drank carefully, as if afraid it might be taken away. Sarah's hands shook as she warmed them around the mug, exhaustion finally catching up to fear. That night, after the children fell asleep, curled together, Sarah cried quietly at the small kitchen table. She tried to apologize for everything, for intruding, for the mess, for existing. Jack listened without interrupting, a skill honed by years of debriefs and losses that couldn't be fixed. When she finished, he said only one thing: "You don't owe me anything. Sometimes people just show up for each other." Those words haunted him later. When he lay awake staring at the ceiling, he realized he'd spent years believing he had nothing left to give, that his best parts were used up overseas. But something about that night stirred a part of him he thought was gone, the part that believed saving one life at a time still mattered. The days after Christmas blurred together. Jack helped Sarah connect with resources he knew from volunteering once, long ago. He watched the kids while she went to interviews. The boy, Liam, slowly relaxed, trading suspicion for curiosity. The little girl, Emma, followed Jack everywhere, her laughter filling corners of the apartment that had been silent for years. Jack found himself buying a small tree, then lights, then ornaments that Emma insisted on hanging crooked. He didn't remember deciding to do it. It just happened. But healing never moves in straight lines. One night, fireworks from a late celebration exploded nearby, and Jack dropped to the floor before he could stop himself. Heart racing, breath shallow. Liam saw everything. The next morning, the boy asked quietly why Jack looked scared sometimes. Jack almost deflected, almost hid behind humor. Instead, he told the truth about the Navy, about losing friends, about carrying memories that don't fade easily. Liam listened, eyes wide, then nodded with the solemn understanding of someone who had lost too much too soon. Sarah struggled too. Pride clashed with gratitude. She hated needing help, hated feeling like a burden. One afternoon, after a job interview fell through, she broke down, convinced she was failing her children. Jack didn't try to fix it. He reminded her of how far she'd come, of the strength it took to keep going, of the fact that survival itself was a form of courage. Slowly, her shoulders straightened. Slowly, hope crept back in. Weeks turned into months. Sarah found steady work. A small apartment opened up through a community program. The day they moved, Emma cried because she didn't want to leave Jack. He knelt down and told her something he barely believed himself, that family isn't about walls. It's about showing up. They promised to visit. They did. The first Christmas after that night, they came back to Jack's apartment. Now warmer, fuller, alive. The walls held photos now imperfect, real moments frozen in time. Jack watched the kids tear into gifts, watched Sarah laugh without forcing it, and felt something settle inside him. Peace, maybe, or purpose reborn. He never claimed to have saved them. He knew better. They saved each other. Sarah found her strength again. The children found safety. And Jack found redemption, not in medals or missions, but in choosing compassion over isolation. As the evening wound down, Jack looked at the tree lights glowing softly and thought about that first moment under the broken how close he'd been to walking past. How different everything would have been if he had. Kindness, he realized, doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It asks you to stop, to notice, to act even when it's inconvenient. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that one moment of courage can change a lifetime, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Talks. Because somewhere tonight, someone is standing in the cold, waiting for a voice to say, "Come with me," and you might be the one meant to speak.